It's showtime. Well, welcome to the Living in Dallas, Texas YouTube channel live stream tonight. And my name is Levi Lascsak. And if this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is about living in Dallas, Texas, then you definitely want to subscribe below. Tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to learn about the current market in Dallas. And of course, as I mentioned, I'm Levi, my partner Travis. You know, the team and I, we get reach outs every single day. We love it. And so whether you're looking to move in 9 days or 90 days, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. We're happy to help you make a smooth move to Dallas. And you are in for a treat tonight. We've got the best mortgage officer in Dallas, Texas. Our partner, Brian McCauley, is with us tonight. We're going to talk about this interest rate roller coaster. What is going on with these interest rates? It's like this way one day, that way the other day, down this day, up the other day. I mean, how can you make the best decision for you and your family if you're considering moving in general, but especially if you're thinking about moving to the Dallas, Texas area? So those are the things that we want to kind of cover in this video tonight. And if you're on the live stream at this time, then start hitting us with questions. This is a great time to ask myself. We're about to bring in my partner, Travis, the Wizard of Oz, Krissy, who is with us as well. And then Brian, to answer all of your questions, real estate and mortgage related. So this is a great opportunity to have that discussion. And if you're watching right now as well, we see several of you out there. Please give us a thumbs up. That would be great. And so let me start with bringing my man Travis. What's up? How you doing?
What's up, man? How's it going? What's up, everybody? Happy to be here today. This is gonna be a good one, y'all.
So, yeah, we're gonna pop them all in here. So here we go. It's definitely a party now. Well, what's going on, Brian? How are you?
I'm good, man. Good evening, everybody.
Yep, good to see you. So as I mentioned, Brian McCauley with Fairway Mortgage, our preferred mortgage partner here in the Dallas, Texas area, has worked with us on several deals. And I will say what we love about Brian is he knows the business inside and out. And he also does what he says, so he makes things happen, follows up. He lets us know and lets the clients know, where we're at in the process. He can evaluate, deals every single way. And so we know if we're going to run into trouble or if we're going to have a hang up or if we're going to have smooth selling. And he's always 5 steps ahead. I will tell you that. So it's a pretty amazing and the whole team, not just Brian, it's an amazing team at Fairway as well. Jason, Nate, Mary, Callie, the whole crew. I mean, we love them all. They're a big part of our success. So we're happy to have you on here. And so tell us, Brian, give us a quick background. I know you're a Dallas man through and through. So give us the quick rundown of you.
Yeah, man. Born and raised in Dallas, live here now. I'm a native. Hard to believe this is my 18th year in the mortgage industry. It's all I've ever done. It's all I know, good and bad. So started February 7th, 2005, and just, seen everything since. So it's a great industry. A little crazy right now, but we'll unpack all that tonight.
Great. Travis, what's up, my man? How you doing?
Living the dream, man. Just happy to be here. And I'm excited to hear what Brian has to say. This guy, he really is a legend. So,
yep. Krissy, how are you?
I'm great.
All right. We lost your audio and we lost Travis all of a sudden. What happened there? Did he kick himself out?
No, you clicked me backstage, man. Come on.
Did I? Oh, okay. All right. Krissy, we lost your audio
right now.
Okay,
yeah. All right. So let's get it kicked off. And so let's see, Brian. So we saw the thumbnail, the interest rate roller coaster right now. They seem to be more volatile now than I can remember. And starting in 2005, you've been through a downturn or two, right? In your business, I'm sure you had an amazing 2 years in 2005, 2006, 2007. And then all of a sudden, the world, at least the real estate world, of course, had a really big blow. So let's talk through today. We can kind of backtrack a little bit because I'm interested to hear your thoughts about the comparisons of 2007, 2008 to today. Right. But let's talk about right now fluctuating interest rates because, for myself, this is what we talk about this a lot on the channel is the home I'm in now, I purchased in 2019 at a 5% interest rate, and I didn't bat an eye at that. At the time, it was a great rate. It was the lowest we had seen in quite a long time, and so I felt like I was getting a deal. And now people are like 5%, even 6%. They feel is just absurd. So what's your take? I guess there's several questions in there, but let's just kind of start with the fluctuation. What's really causing the fluctuation back and forth? And then, what should people keep an eye out for as far as, what is a good rate? That's what some people would ask.
Yeah. So to your point, 5 or 6% historically is still a really competitive rate. What we all saw during COVID was artificially low, so people can't use that as the standard. If you look back over the past 20 to 30 years, rates range anywhere from, 6 to 12%. So I don't think it's necessarily where rates are at now. I think it was the speed in which they went up. And that's what everybody's trying to figure out is why so quickly and where are they headed and the pace there. And so, given what's going on with the economy and inflation and investors and trying to get clarity, everything seems to be on the rise. And the way that, investors in Wall Street make their money, it's on a premium. It's on the back end on the rates. So what happens right now is they're overcorrecting, right? They couldn't make any premium. They couldn't do anything during the COVID run because rates were so low. They were just trying to get people to spend. So it was a volume thing of, hey, we're not going to make a lot of money on this stuff, so we'll just give it to everybody for cheap and we'll get it in the long run. And what happened was they overcorrected there and they're overcorrecting now. And so they're trying to pick back up some of these losses and this inflation at the same time. And these rates can't keep up. And so hopefully they get to a place by the end of the year to where they'll stabilize, kind of settle and give not only potential homeowners, but the rest of us kind of some clarity on the direction.
Yeah. So the way they went up I know that was something that, a lot of people were talking about is rate increases of 100% or 200%. And when you think about that, going from, yes, 2.5 to 5 is definitely, a large increase percentage wise, but still getting back to the rate again. What we felt a couple of years ago was perfectly normal. So when people are having discussions with you, of course, if they haven't come through us, that we always have these discussions with clients. Like what's your main, discussion with them whenever they're saying, okay, so what do I do right now? And if they're in a position, if they're flexible, I guess there's two ways to look at that. If they're flexible, should they wait? Or on the other side, if somebody has a transfer with a job and they have to move, what's that conversation? Let's start with that. Let's say somebody's getting transferred or they're relocating, so they have to move. So what would be, your discussion with them on that to help them feel a little bit more comfortable about that?
Yeah. So, when you're talking to home buyers, reloads or not reloads, the first thing you want to just, help everybody understand is buying a house is a way to create wealth. Okay, you have to let people see buying a house, the totality of it, and all the financial pieces, good and bad. People really only care about the rate because they really care about the payment. The payment's more of a focus than the rate, but obviously, the rate is tied into that. The second piece is you want to look at the full financial picture of what people have, excluding the home loan. A lot of people have car payments, credit card payments. They got a lot of other bad debt. So it's crazy. Sometimes people will bucket at 6% and it's an extra $150 on the mortgage, but they've got, credit card debt and other things that are sinking their ship much quicker. So I try to tell people good debt and bad debt. Credit card debt is the worst debt because it's revolving, it's high rates, it's not collateralized, you get in trouble. Auto debt historically is kind of in the middle because the debt is collateralized by a car, like something. So if you get in a pinch, you can turn it in and get your money back. But traditionally cars go down in value. You don't get any tax deductions. Mortgage debt is the best debt, right? Because it's attached to something that goes up in value. You get tax deductions. And so there's good debt and bad debt. So that's the first thing I say is let's think bigger picture, not just home loan. Second piece on the rate. So right now, there's a good side to this coin about rates going up. And I want to talk about that here shortly. But people are concerned about the rates because they're concerned about the payments. And so if they've got to take a 6% rate right now, I tell everybody it's such a short-term deal that rates are not going to stay like this. There was an article published last week on NBC from Fannie Mae saying their projection is that rates are going to get back down to 4.5 or below in 2023. So I tell everybody to say, hey, this is not a forever loan. This is not a forever deal. Sometimes in these markets, you have to take a 6% rate just to get the keys and do what's best for you, but you may make 6, 9, 12 payments. And so the difference of that interest, versus a 4% rate, maybe a couple $100, but you're talking $2,500, $3,000 over a year. That's nothing really when it comes to, buying a house. And eventually, like everybody else, there'll be a correction. Rates will drop, everybody will refi, and then you can take that loan and sit on it for a long time. And that's really where your savings are, but you don't want to jeopardize getting a property because there's still some inventory challenges out there.
Yeah, and appreciation is still happening right now in Dallas. Even we were looking at the recent reports. Even in August, year over year, even though home sales are down, appreciation was still up 20% in Collin County, which is the main areas where people are looking here in Dallas, which is Frisco, Plano, Prosper, McKinney, that whole area. Still in August had a rate of 20% appreciation. So. Yeah, Travis. So on that point, what have you seen lately? I know we've locked in a few more deals this last week for clients. So what's it been like for those clients? What kind of deals did you come across? Did you get them at list price? Did they get some concessions with that? How did that work out in favor of the clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's kind of what we've talked about previously before. I mean, some areas that are still super, super hot are still getting multiple offers. Now, I am definitely seeing that a lot less now. I mean, I'm really seeing, maybe 3 or 4 offers come in, and none of them have really hovered more than about $10,000 or $20,000 over. And that's very, I would say, much more rare now, because like I'm working a deal right now that they easily will take $10,000 under. And this house is priced right. It's just their sellers had, they're in a crunch because it's taken a little bit more time for inventory to move. Everyone was expecting things to sell in, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Well, now it's almost starting to normalize where things are sitting, 30, 45, 50 days. So people's timelines on the seller side are crunching where I don't think that they were necessarily ready. So they're willing to take deals that have really strong buyers and get them moved into that house and accept those deals. I had one of my ladies who's an investor. I know we'll talk about investing and all this other stuff, probably a little bit later on. But she bought a house, and I was able to get her basically $4,000 in concessions without even a single argument, and we went under, just slightly under. But there was 2 other offers, but they were all cash deals. It was like, I think it was around 220,000 or 250,000 or something like that. So with that being said, we were able to get it under just slightly, and we were able to get $4,000 in concessions without even having to worry about that. So, there's a lot of things that we can do for you. I that's one of the reasons I love working with Brian, because he's helped me so much get creative with the financing with our buyers, like what to use your concessions, for, you know what I'm saying? Like you can use that to help cover closing costs, and the money that you set aside for closing costs, you can use that to pay down your credit cards and lower your monthly bill and pay off things that have higher interest rates. Pay off your car. Closing costs can be $10,000 or $15,000, and a lot of people have that money. So if we can get them concessions, now we can help them get creative with their financing and pay off that bad debt that Brian was talking about. So like, imagine if your credit card's $200 a month, right? And well, we can help you pay that whole credit card off. Then you completely even out. Your payment may be a little bit higher, but now you don't have any bad debt. So it's, we're able to get much more creative, with the financing and being able to get getting a deal done right now is just super easy. I mean, we were able to get deals done with 50, 60 offers, and now there's like 1 or 2. I mean, it's, I think this is one of the best times to buy, because there's all this hesitation and a little bit of panic in the marketplace where it doesn't necessarily even need to be there. And that's why we really try to educate people on, I learned this from Brian. It's, you marry the house and you date the rate. These houses are continuing to go up. We're seeing that in the numbers. We're seeing that in the stats. These houses are continuing to go up. Like Brian also said, we're still in a massive inventory shortage. So the amount of inventory that's here versus the amount of people that are moving here, it's just, there's still not as high of a demand, but the property values are going to continue to go up for sure. And then, like you said, you can just refi the rate. So, we're seeing, it's a good time to sell because you're still getting top dollar for your property. So I'm not saying that, it's not a good time to sell. It's just expect a little bit longer of a time and just price the house correctly. I think that's super important. If you overprice your house, this just isn't the market for that. So, I would say if you're selling, don't get greedy, right? truly listen to your agent and let them show you the comps and let them show you the numbers, and your house will sell fast. The ones that are sitting on the market are typically the ones that are just straight up overpriced, and they're going to have to bring that back down. And now they're struggling and fighting because they had to do a price reduction. So now people think there's all this room for negotiations, right? So, list your house, properly, great time to sell. And then obviously, it's a great time to buy as well.
All right, so we see several of you out there and load us up with some questions. This is a great opportunity to talk with one of the best mortgage brokers in the city of Dallas. And of course, Travis, you get to talk to Travis too. Come on now. Throw the questions in there. But so that's some really good points there. The thing is that, 8 months ago, anything under 300,000, everything was a bloodbath anyways. But under 300,000, those homes were gone so quickly. Yeah. And right now, so investors, here's the deal. I guess going back to that other question, Brian, what do you think as far as someone that has flexibility right now? Do you think they're still missing out on the opportunity to build equity if they say, okay, I'm going to wait 6 months? And then what do you see, even if I guess you really kind of answered that earlier, that yes, rates are projected to go back down to 5 or 4.5 in 2023, but they miss out on some of that appreciation. And then also, who knows, that could bring more buyers back into the market on top of that. So we could still have a situation where there's still some multiple offers, even though we're still seeing that right now. So if somebody's a little bit flexible, what's that discussion look like?
Yeah, well, I think to Travis's point, so the state of Texas and the city of Dallas is positioned so well to absorb all this and do well through it that I think people need to pay attention to that. That's why a lot of companies and people are still reloading here, because of the economic growth. If I was a buyer right now and knew what we all knew, I would be really happy about buying a house. The reason behind that is three big things. So number one, if you rewind back to December, you could get a 3% interest rate. But if you were getting a $500,000 house, you'd have to go $40K over out of pocket. So the difference of that 3% rate and 6% today might be $500. But if you are having to pay $50,000 out of pocket, you divide those two into each other, that's a 100-month break-even point. It'll take you 8 years to get it back. So it's actually more advantageous for the buyers from a financial literacy standpoint to do it now, because they'll actually get a property for the price that they want. Yes, they'll lose a little bit when it comes to the payment, because obviously things are going to be higher, but they won't overpay. Second piece is, to your point, depending upon the market, they're able to get some concessions. I've seen a lot of our buyers get $10,000 in closing costs, get the title paid for, get carpet, get paint, get tile, get turf, and it actually maximizes the buyer's benefits. Outside of just getting the home, they get more stuff with it. As far as the flexibility piece, outside of the appreciation piece, what, in my opinion, will happen is this: people are focused in saying, hey, I'm just going to sit on the sideline, wait till rates drop back down to 4.25, then I'm going to time it and get it all done. That's an emotional play. From a financial play, what's going to happen, to your point, is if that and when that happens and all the buyers come off the sidelines at once, it's going to swallow up all the inventory in 30 or 45 days. And what's going to happen at that point is it's all going to be dry again, and we're going to get right back into a multiple offer situation where, number one, the buyers can't even get their hands on a house anymore, which stinks because they've been through that for the past 18 months. But number two, if they do, they're coming right out of pocket another $25K, $15K. And so the $200 they would have saved in the mortgage, they're now having to front just to get the actual house. So it's going to move things in the wrong direction, meaning if I'm a buyer and I wait, that's not where you're going to get the deal. You're going to get the deal probably now through January, February. And that's where you want to be optimistic and say, yes, you're going to take a little haircut on the rate. So what? But you get a house that you like. You'll probably get some concessions. You'll probably get a deal. Homes historically in Texas appreciated 4%, 5% a year. So it's a long-term play for most people anyhow. And when that little rate drop happens, everybody comes off the sideline. What you paid for your house is not going to be the same in the future, because they're going to be so limited on inventory that it's probably going to spike up higher than what you paid for it. So you're actually going to make money on the deal. So this is the financial literacy piece that I want agents and I want buyers to be aware of and see it through the lens that I see it through, so people understand how to play this game, protect and maximize what's going on in the market. I think all agents should talk to every client they had in 20 and 21 that they did a showing for, but they couldn't get them under contract, and just call and say, now is your time. Here's why. And I think people would be able to at least be open to the opportunity knowing that they can get a place, probably get a deal on it, and then just say, hey, I'm going to hang on to the payment for a year. But in the long run, it's going to be a lot more beneficial to them if they look at it that way.
So let's compare to 2008. How about that?
Yeah.
You definitely have experience there. And I started really working more in real estate around 2009, of course, and that's whenever I started to buy some properties on the investment side. So what do you see that's different? Now, here's the other aspect of that. I know a lot of people, of course, that watch the national news, what they saw in California, Miami, they saw price drops of 50%. They saw $800,000 homes and condos go to $400,000. So was that the case? Did you see that here in Dallas, where $600,000 homes dropping to $300,000 at that time? And then what's the big difference you see between then and now?
Yeah. So the number one thing that caused that back in the day was bad loans. It was the opposite of what it is now. Like, mortgages back in the day were so easy to get that a lot of people shouldn't have got them. And they were initially put at a risk up front because they got too much house with not enough documentation. And so all these bad loans that shouldn't have been given couldn't perform. And the lack of performance is what caused everything to drop. There were some places in Dallas that took some haircuts, but it's not because the real estate in the market wasn't sustainable. It's because the people that got the loans to buy the house truly shouldn't. And today, what's great about home loans is that, yes, they're really hard to get, but it's the opposite of the old days. So they used to be super easy. Now they're kind of hard, which, sometimes can be a bad thing when you're going through the process. But what it does, it fully protects the buyer and the neighborhoods and the property from a risk of default. Outside of COVID, forbearance, foreclosures, defaults were at an all-time low. And I think that's an important thing for people to understand. Like, what happened in 08 and 09 is not going to happen now. Home loans are hard to get. They rarely default. And if they do, it's not a huge trend. It doesn't cause a disruption in the neighborhoods and the equity and all that. So they're apples to oranges. The other piece about that too is whenever all of that happened, you look at the states that were having the biggest issues, people were exiting those states. When it comes to Dallas and Texas, people are entering the state. So when loans don't perform and people are walking away and leaving the state, that's the result. When you have good, solid loans now that are performing and people are entering a state, the demand continues to go up, which obviously moves values in the right direction.
All right. Good. Love it. So let's check a couple of comments here. Let's see. Jossie TV says, good afternoon, guys. I'm assuming they're on the West Coast. I'm sure probably still the afternoon over there. What's up, Jossie TV? I don't think we've seen you on here before. We got a good bunch on here, Brian, that tend to visit every single week. So there is definitely some sass going on last week, and good connections. So everyone is answering. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, New York City, I was way off. Okay. So they're on the East Coast. So maybe they're telling us good afternoon. I was, yeah. Let's see. Now he says, is this a good time to buy, or should we wait while the interest rates fluctuate? I think we really kind of just covered that, in depth a little bit there. And that's, so I think we got that covered. So Jossie, let us know if you want us to follow up on that question anymore. I think we got that. Let's say NJ99. Thanks for the discussion. All right, good. Oh, all right, here we go. Alex Reed. What's up, Alex? How's it going? Says, how much appreciation percentage do you forecast in a Dallas market for 2023? I'll kick that to you, Brian. If you
Yeah. So it's an excellent question, Alex. Thank you for that. What I try to do is I don't like to get technical on specific years or like 6 months time frames. I try to look at historical trends and say, hey, over the past 10 to 15 years, that Dallas has appreciated 4 to 5% a year. Kind of like the stock market. Like, there's going to be dips and things here and there, but overall you're buying it to hold and make money in the long term. Specific to the property in the area, I would actually default back to the agent. Anytime somebody buys a property, they can look at an economic trend over the past 5 years and say, where was this house in this neighborhood back in, 2018 versus now? And you can look at, build out, construction, crime rates, schools, all of that. And so, the trends in the area are most likely going to continue that way, but it's specific per the area. So overall, things continue to head in the right direction, 4 to 5%. I think that demand will continue to go up. I think the sweet spot is going to be when rates drop back down around 5 in the high 4s, and it's not quite to the bottom, but people start to come off the sideline. You're going to see a push. But things will always head north. It's just specific on how much. But I would say historically, at least 4 to 5%. So, somebody buys a house for $500,000. It appreciates at 5% a year. They make 25 grand. They stay there for 4 years. They make 100 grand. You can't get ROI like that in most places. So, be smart about where you buy. But at the same time, Dallas is one of the best positioned places right now.
Yeah. And we, and I mean, I read a bunch of articles, so I can't tell you exactly which one, but I know that we just, one of the articles just evaluated, if you owned a home over the last 5 years, on average, you had 125,000 in appreciation, or in equity, 125,000 in equity. That's a big deal. I mean, that's what, when Brian was saying earlier, talking about the wealth creation. I mean, here's the deal. If, where everyone's saying this is going to be the downturn, so you should hold on to things. This is when people that increase their wealth, are buying because they purchased, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. They have that equity now. Whether using your home equity is a good decision or for you, that's what you have to determine. But a lot of people leverage that to either buy rental properties, second homes, invest in stocks if they're down. Clearly, we saw the market hit a big drop the other day. So, but you've got to have that position to do it. And if you don't have the cash on hand, you have opportunities to tap into, home equity and things like that, but only if you own that home. And that was that's how I purchased multiple properties whenever I was in the rental business. I would just simply hold that property for 6 months, do a cash out refinance, use the equity that I got from remodeling that property. Because if you buy something that could use a little work, rehab it, and then after 6 months, refinance it, do the cash out, I could pull that out for the down payment on the next property, the 20% on the next property. It's a rinse and repeat type of cycle. And that's how I, acquired 7 properties within just a couple of years, just by doing that every 6 months. But I had to buy the first property in the first place to do that. And so, but what's funny, and we always talk about timing the market, I sold all of my properties in 2019 because I thought there was going to be a crash in 2019. So that's what I get for trying to time the market. So if I would have held on to 1 and 2 more years, I probably could have I would have made a lot more. But, the thing is that, ultimately you got to do what's best for you and the timing, and you got to make those decisions, but you got to be in the position to have that opportunity in the first place. So that's interesting. Now, going back to Alex's question here, what I've seen, another recent article that I just read, they're projecting at least still 10%. So what Brian has said is true, on average 4 to 5% appreciation. But even over the next year, from what I've read, they're still projecting overall at least 10% appreciation. So that's cooling, because we've been averaging over the last year almost between 20 to 25%, which is unprecedented. That hadn't happened before. So even if we come down and slow down a little bit, which is the direction we're heading, 10% appreciation overall for the next year, still pretty strong. That's a big deal. So, either take advantage of that. Oh, yep. And he says, feels like the interest rates are like 99% right now. So, what is 99% interest rate?
Rent.
Yeah. There you go. Rent. Yeah. Travis,
Yeah,
you don't have to raise your hand. You can answer anytime here.
The other thing people should pay attention to help them with what's going to go on in the appreciation is, specifically in Dallas, pay attention to the population growth. That's the indicator. People move here. Everybody's a human. They must live no matter what. They're either going to rent or they're going to own. And one way or the other, they're going to pay a mortgage. Is it a landlord's or is it theirs? Rent is not a good long-term way to create wealth. Sometimes people can't qualify. Sometimes people are short-term on work here and there. But overall, home ownership creates the most wealth the fastest. And so if you want to know, like, hey, what's the appreciation going to be? Look at historic numbers. That's kind of a guaranteed backbone. To Levi's point, there's some hot spots that are double digit, but how things are going to go up is looking at the companies, the economic trends, all the population surge of people that are coming here to Dallas, and you got to put them somewhere. I've told everybody, like, if everybody's stuck on renting, cool, just tell me where you want to rent and how much. I'll buy a rental property tomorrow, stick you in it, and you can pay it down for me for 5 years. I'm cool with that.
Absolutely.
All right. So they're saying, Alex, all right. Alex got some good questions. They're saying rates are going to 7%. I can't imagine what the market will be like if they reach 7%. Definitely an interesting time. Do you see it hitting 7% here pretty soon, Brian?
Yeah, I think so. Right now it's probably, high fives to low sixes for A paper, middle sixes for B paper, like credit score stuff, and then higher sixes, low sevens for C paper. Alex, the biggest component about that is the lens that people see through. It's a fear-based lens, and they think, oh my gosh, 7%, my payment's going to go up by $400. That's all they see right here. To Levi's point, people that understand how the market's going to work, and there's already articles projected out there, this thing's in the last 12 months, they look at it as opportunity. They get a little haircut on the house, they get some concessions, they get all kinds of stuff here and there, and they actually make outs with an extra $25K because they're buying it now, they're going to hold it, they're going to refi in 6 to 9 months. So again, if rates were at 3, people would be happy about the payment, but nobody could get a house. So this is actually a small window that any buyers out there that were considering it and want a second look should look now, because by the time we turn to 23 Q2 and those rates drop again, it's going to pull more people off the sidelines, and there's just not enough inventory. We're going to be right back to where we were, and every buyer's going to feel great about the payment, but they don't have a house that they like, and they're going to overpay by 20 or 30K. And so you have to logically figure out, like, that's not a good trade. So this little, 9-month window that we have, that things stay in the 6s or 7s are actually good for people if they're looking to pick up a house that they like and maybe get a deal.
Yeah. That's a pretty good point.
Your volume's not working. I see your mouth moving, but I can't hear you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, take it away. Somebody take over for me.
Are you trying to?
So one of the other things too that
it's me.
Got it.
Oh, it's Krissy, not me.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Oh, I thought you were telling me my audio was out. Oh, yeah, Krissy. Okay, so all right. So then I'll go back to I like that point. So what's funny is like, okay, that is a good point. You were saying, okay, well, if everyone's waiting rates to go back to 3%, remember, not with our team. If you worked with our team, we got you a house. We didn't go more than 2 offers on all of our clients. And usually the first offer, if we lost that, it's because we were still getting on the same page with the client, right? We were still trying to fill each other out, but we didn't go past, I can't tell you, I don't think we went past 2 offers on really any home. Maybe with one client, we went to 3 offers. That was it. And then over and over and over again, we heard story after story of agents or clients coming to us that had lost 7, 8, or 9 homes with other agents. So if you are waiting for rates to get back to 3%, remember what that was like trying to find a house at that time, because guess what? Everybody floods the market and goes after it. And if you're not working with the right team, which is, we are the right team to work with, but then you could find yourself in that situation again, to where if you miss out on, so many buyers got buyer fatigue, and it became emotional for them, and losing out on even 2 or 3 or 4 properties, especially when they felt like that was the one, very discouraging for people, and then they stepped out. And so, that is something to keep in mind if that's really what you're waiting on. But what I also want to ask people to think about is do the calculation. So what are you paying? Oh, if you're going to wait, let's just say 6 months, and let's say the percentage rates do go down 0.5% or even 1%, calculate that payment, but you have to add in loss of appreciation, and you have to add in what you're paying on rent over the next 6 months as well. That's probably going to add up to anywhere between $60,000 and $100,000 on average, depending on, because if let's say rates appreciate 10% on average as they're projecting, if you and let's say it's the average $500,000 home, you're missing out on a possibility of $50,000 in equity. And if you're paying at least $2,000 a month, which is probably going to be typical if you want to get into a rental home that's equivalent to a $500,000 home, that's another $24,000 in rent. So there you're at $75,000. So even if that rate drops 0.5% or 1%, you end up paying more for that home. You lost out on that appreciation, and you paid that rent. You got to take that number and do the math on it and see, like, is that really worth it? And that's something to think about. Am I far off there, Brian?
I think you're spot on. I mean, I would even add a third layer to that. I mean, that's the money component of it, the money move, trying to figure out all the details. You got to add the tax deductions on there as well, which is money back on your money, paying out a little bit of a note. So obviously you get a little bit back there. But the third piece is the FOMO piece of, like, outside of the money component of it, is you're probably not going to get a house. This window is pretty small for people to go out and actually get something. So you have to look at all those layers. And to your point, it's like, if somebody is paying $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year, it's $50,000 over 2 years, they're going to flush down the toilet. It's not going to go to anything. It's paying down their landlord's notes. They don't have a place to call their own. Back in the day when people used to rent before all this happened and Dallas was on the map, I saw Dallas start to come on the map economically like middle of 2018, but COVID just boomed it to show everybody how good it was, and it's never going to go away again. You used to be able to rent for cheap. So I get it. Hey, my home loan's $2,500. I can rent a 1-bedroom apartment for $1,200. You can cut the cost in half. Now rent is so expensive that the financial benefit of it is not really there. The margin's like $100, $200, but to your point, everything you're missing out on from the property, the appreciation, the deductions and all that, it just doesn't make any sense. The only thing keeping people from doing it outside of qualifying is a fear piece, which is where, doing this for 17 and a half years and being a certified planner and helping everybody through, financial freedom and wealth accumulation and all this stuff. I mean, I'm 41. I've had 3 houses in the past 10 years, primaries, and I've made a ton of money on them all. Sometimes, 5%, sometimes 20. So, I drink the Kool-Aid as well. And it's just never a bad investment to do. It's a timing thing. People want to wait and buy it. So people buy and wait. That's the truth, because historically it goes up just like stocks. My stock portfolio went down in COVID from 30,000 to 18. I looked at it. I didn't love it, but I know I'm not going to sell the stock, so it doesn't matter. So even if you buy a house and it goes up 5%, drops back down 3%, it's just an emotional thing, but it's not really a numbers thing. But overall, you're going to win the game if you know how to look at the chessboard in that financial way, which is where we're trying to educate people, because some agents do, and a lot of people have only been in the business 5 years or less. And so all they know is low rates, seller's market. So when something like this happens, they don't know how to speak to the people and say, hey, there's other doors to unlock. Let's unlock them together and see what's there, which is what we're trying to do to help people understand. Now is not a bad time. If that rate was stuck for 30 years, I get it, but it's not. It's probably a 12 to 18 month deal. And what you're missing out on the flip side of the coin is going to be worse than paying a little extra in the payment.
Yeah, and that's so Brian brushed over the fact that he's also a certified financial planner, which is another reason why we love him so much, despite the fact that he's terribly handsome on top of that. But no, the thing is that what we love, Brian says, is he's like, look, I'm going to get you into debt, but then I'm going to get you out.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you into good debt, but then I'm going to also help you work your way out. So what he does with all of our clients is as soon as they purchase that home and the loan closes, he immediately starts working with them on the backside on financial planning and helping them through part of that process and how to, rearrange some things and get some things paid off, especially because he's taking a look at, our client's whole financial picture. We're not, but he is on the backside. And so that's a great thing. So that's what's the biggest thing that you focus on post mortgage, after the fact? What's something that you really stress with the clients to help them get into that motion of starting to reduce debt from there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a journey. Buying a house is a transaction, but you got to stay with them behind the scenes. To Levi's point, I'm a certified mortgage planner. It took me 2 years to get all that. And so it's helping people understand wealth creation. But I find that, people don't even run a monthly budget anymore. And I see so many people that are spending, $95 at Me Casino on a Friday night. I'm like, there's your house. Right. So you can go through and do budgets, 6 steps to financial freedom, good debt, bad debt, wealth wheels, wealth accumulators, how to save and all this stuff, kind of have a dashboard. So I want to help them during the transaction. But after the fact, I check in with all clients probably 2 or 3 times a year, annual reviews, just to make sure that people are in the best position possible. To Levi's point, people gain equity. And I'm like, hey, the equity in your house doesn't do anything for you unless you touch on it, right? It's a good emotional feel, but it's ghost equity. And so people that understand well say, hey, the only way to tap into it is either to sell the property or to refi and get cash out. And so when you have things like houses that appreciate 10, 20, 30% a year, you can tap into it and improve your financial position everywhere. Sometimes it's debt payoff. Sometimes it's rehabbing a house. Sometimes it's buying and flipping. Sometimes it's market. But the bottom line is when you have this extra cash via the equity and appreciation in a house, you have options. It's a poker game. The more chips you get, the more aggressive you can be. And most of the time, unless you blow it, you'll end up winning the game. So these are things that I check in with people on the back end, do a lot of videos. I do a wealth workshop every year, just explaining people to this money thing they don't teach us in school. And too many times I see people have lack of knowledge or don't understand how to put it all together. And so I want to help them in that area because obviously I was helped. But not only will it put them in a better position, those clients come back and the repeat clients and they refer. And that's what I'm about because I'm a relationship-based guy, not a transaction-based guy. So I have to bring value, and value is more than just a home loan closing and the application.
What's the average car payment you see right now?
I would say anywhere from 450 to 750, depending upon the client.
Interesting.
A lot.
So,
The biggest thing I see is miscellaneous junk spending.
yeah.
Meaning like when somebody just looks at their bank statements once a month, they line on everything: food, drink, fun, shopping, things here and there. I guarantee you, like there's $400, $300 a month easy where you could just chip away at a couple things, one thing a week. You could save yourself 250 to 3 and not even feel it from a lifestyle standpoint. But the problem is that people don't pay attention to that. That's why you got to run a budget, get bank statements, and say, okay, cool, I can carve out 4 Starbucks coffees, one night out, and one pair of shoes. There's your $185, and it won't actually affect the life. We don't want people squeezing and living like check to check, right? But there's the ability to think smart and grow in that knowledge. But also, if you convert that and say, hey, my mortgage is $200 higher. If I do this, that'll offset this. Well, one of those is trash spending. It doesn't do anything for you. The other one helps you get a house. And then to your point, Levi, it ends up compounding for you in so many other areas that, we want people to be able to see through that lens. And if all they look at is rate and payments, they're blinded. And that's why we're trying to help kind of unveil the other pieces, especially in a market like this.
Yeah. It's funny. For probably a good 2 or 3 years, I did the old Dave Ramsey cash and envelopes, thing, which was, I pulled out my cash I set up all my bills, the bills I could set up on automatic payment, but then the things that I would miscellaneously spend on, which was food and, gas and things like this. Gas was a little bit of a hassle. So there I went back to credit card just because it was easier to pay at the pump. But I did the whole envelope thing. And I tell you what, it's interesting because there is truth to that too. If you need help in that category, it is truth. When you start giving out cash, you do develop a little bit of emotional relationship with that cash. And then when you're pumping out $6 for Starbucks, at one time you start going, okay, that hurt a little bit. And you start thinking about that. Yes, $120 for Friday night dinner. It's like just dinner and a couple of drinks, you can bust over $100 easily one night. And what happened is that you're mindful of that, but then what I started to see is I started to kind of just scale back on some of the things here and there. And I wasn't in financial trouble. It was just something that I wanted to be mindful of and give that a try. And I worked off of it for a couple of years. But what happened at the end of the month, I started having leftover cash. So whenever I was, going through there and, spending, I never kept track of it. Whenever I started using the cash, though, I started having $100 over at the end of the month, and sometimes $200. Next thing I know, over a couple of months, I'd have $300, $400, $500 left over. Like, oh, now I've got the fun money, right? And so it's like, and then I started to hold on to that, and so now I've got this emergency fund. I don't want to say stash somewhere, just in case. It's hidden very well. Don't come to my house though.
Yeah, we need to know where that cash is coming from if you're trying to buy a house, Levi. All right.
Yeah. Well, people need to get back to tracking their stuff, man, especially in these challenging economic times. Everybody scales back from a mental standpoint. Whatever's best for you, from just an old school spreadsheet, looking at bank statements, talking to your spouse or partner or whatever, and saying, hey, my goal is to save $200 this month. I'm going to cut out going out to eat one time, things here and there. There's a lot of that fluff and fat in people's budgets. They just don't like to do it because they got to hold themselves accountable. But the truth is that they took that and they didn't make major cuts, just minor stuff here and there. It's smart. It's a smart way to live. But you can flip that into something else financially smart, like buying a house, and all that stuff would be there easily. So these are just things, again, like we try to incorporate to the process, and it's all there. It's just a matter of taking time, kind of peeling back layers, and not only helping them from getting a house, but understanding how to navigate that path in the future. And then once we get there and people have a surplus of money, it's like, hey, I tell everybody your life should be a game show, and the game show is called, what's the highest and best use of my money? If they stuck us on a game show for an hour and said, like, good debt, bad debt, saving this, loans, no tax, blah, 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 and stuck us in a room and said, do what you can. Whoever comes up with the best answers, get $1 million cash. We'd all say, okay, I need to get rid of my credit card debt, cut this spending, do this, save this, invest it over here, compound it for 5 years, make me here and there. And so that's what we're trying to do in a light way to help people, period, but especially in a time like this.
Travis, you want to take this one? We found buyers are afraid and not submitting offers, trying to negotiate the price, and we're trying to sell for months.
Yeah, no, for sure. Hey, family of Frisco, appreciate y'all joining us today. Hopefully you're still here because I actually have a couple of questions for you first before I can better answer this. My first question would be, are you working with a real estate agent? Because it says we're trying to sell for months. To me, that makes it sound like you're maybe trying to sell this property on your own. So if you're not working with a real estate agent, obviously I'd love for you to give us a call, and I'm more than happy to at least give you my guidance and see what I can do to help get that property off the market. We get millions of views on our YouTube channel. So if there is a real estate agent and team that can sell your property, it's definitely us. We just go out there, we film it, make it look good, and put it on our channel. So if you're still there, I'd love to find out if you are working with the real estate agent or not. And if you are working with the real estate agent, I would also be very curious to understand how you have your house priced, because typically I don't agree that buyers are afraid because we're helping. I mean, some buyers are afraid. So I guess I partially agree that we have so many buyers buying all the time. Even now, even though it's a little bit less than what it was, there are still buyers in the marketplace and they're still buying homes. And what I typically see is if a property is sitting on the market longer than it should, it may need a lot of work. Or it's really way overpriced. So there's a couple different variables there on why I believe that your property may still be sitting there. I don't know the location. I don't know your price point. If it's under 300,000 and it's still sitting there, well, I would say there's something definitely wrong there, because those homes are still flying off the market. If you're in that million plus range and you're sitting for 45 to 60 days. I don't think that's that long anymore. I think I'm starting to see that more and more in the higher end range. But yeah, it just depends on, a few different questions there. So if you're still there, would love to help.
All right. Is there such thing as a bad time to buy a home? I think we've covered that in quite depth, you would say. Let's see here. Okay, follow up. If I buy now at 7%, I could probably just refinance and when the rates drop, right? Maybe. I think we covered that too, but the short answer is yes, right?
You should, no matter what. And when you close, your lender should be checking in with you every quarter, and they should be timing it, doing reviews with you to say, hey, as things improve, they need to be there for you to coach you through it and improve the financial position. If you didn't, that would be a bad move. If you take the rate now, remember, it's a temporary rate. It's not going to last for long. When that happens, jump on it and maximize your savings.
Yeah. Let's see. Ethan Hill says, if you're buying a new build, they have good incentives for lower rates.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go new build right now, just be very, very careful, because a lot of these new construction, and I have nothing wrong. I personally really love brand new builds. But right now, you really, really got to be careful on buying a new construction. Some properties and builders were way overpricing their homes, I believe. And I saw 2 homes come in the email the other day that were brand new construction. They dropped the price $100,000. If you had bought that house without an agent, without pulling comps and looking at what that house's value was, you're in serious trouble now that's something like that happened, right? So you got to really make sure that you're looking at it, because maybe they give you some good incentives to get a lower rate, but you're overpaying $100,000 for the property. Who's really winning? The builder's winning. It's like going to a casino and gambling. The casino always wins. So that's how that kind of works sometimes. So not that it's bad, just protect, ask questions, sure, yes, there are some builders out there that give you good incentives, but just watch out, because it's coming from somewhere typically.
Yeah, Ethan, I'm going to add something to that. When you go to a new construction builder and they're advertising cheaper rates than everyone else, just know it has nothing to do with that builder or that builder's lender. They can't offer interest rates really lower than everybody else. Everybody's pulling from the same pool and bond market and all that. Yep. What they're doing is they're giving you an advertised rate, and that rate appears lower than normal. But behind the scenes, there are incentives that either the builder, the lender, or both are doing, and they are buying down the interest rate lower than normal. So anyone can do that. It's not always a high, good use of the money. But if rates are at 6 and they're offering 4.5, what you'll see in the fine print once you get there is it's costing 10 or 15 grand, 20 grand to get that rate there. It's just that the builder or the lender is using some of their compensation, their profit to buy it down for the client as sort of like in-person clickbait to get you there. And so that opportunity to get a lower rate is always there for everybody. It's just the way that it's advertised and who's paying for it. So just make sure when it's being advertised to you, you look at all the small stuff. I promise you, there are discount points and fees and all that to get it. Now, if the buyer has to pay it, bad deal. If the builder or the lender wants to pay for it for you, good deal. But pay attention to that.
There you go. That's money right there. Let's see. Alex says, I've been looking at some new construction, but I've been a little worried about the mud and the PID taxes. Is there a cap on how high they can go?
You want me to answer? Or you got it, Brian?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, on mud and PID taxes. I mean, yeah, there are some new construction communities that have mud and PID taxes. And I do believe that there is a cap on it eventually, but they can raise it. I would have to do a little bit more research on that. I'm not sure if how high they can actually go. That would be a question that I would want to do a little bit more research on, but I know that it can fluctuate. Is that your understanding, Brian, as well?
Yeah, I mean, and all those taxes and everything are under control by the county. So, I mean, everything gets adjusted every year, getting it all going. And so, they can always go up. It's just a matter of how much. The kicker in Texas is when it's a primary home and you've got your homestead tax exemption filed on the property after the first year, all of the taxes continue to go up as high as they want in the future, but the homeowner is only responsible for a maximum of 10% delta. So these are things to pay attention to as well based on your occupancy intention, but also the state that you're buying in.
Well said.
Yeah. Now, and they have an expiration. I mean, normally the mud and PID are at they're usually in a 20 to 30 year. So that's the other thing. I mean, it's there. And so it does depend. I mean, I know people ask a lot about that, but we don't deal in a lot of communities with PID and mud taxes.
Not really. And real quick, and like when we do, I feel like there's so much further in the country that you're getting more house for cheaper, but your payments may be almost the same because you got a little mud or PID tax there. Like it's still probably cheaper, right, than being closer into the city or something like that. But I've found that and like I don't know, I've sold a ton of real estate, and I think I've only sold like 1 or 2 houses with a mud or PID tax. I don't think that's been there's not too many out there.
Well, I think I don't know if the actual tax, like it's usually fixated for that time period, but the assessments could be involved in there because ultimately what you're paying for, you're paying for the municipality, right? You're paying for utilities. That's what it's coming into. It's basically saying the developers putting that back on the homeowners instead of them taking it on. And so if that's the case and there's water line breaks or things like that, it's technically falls on the community versus the city as well. So, and just to Travis's point, that's usually further out in the country. You're seeing that, and again, you can get more house for less price, but those taxes could bring it up. But the main areas we deal in, Prosper, Frisco, maybe there's a couple of communities in Salina with that, but we just don't come across it that much. But that's just something to keep in mind. It's the whole reason why you HOAs, right? I mean, HOAs, especially with condos or townhomes. Yes, they're fixed, but they can always get raised at some point. But then also it's the assessments that really kill people because, a windstorm comes through or hail damage or something like that. And then all of a sudden you got to put on a $300,000 roof across, 5 different buildings. Well, guess who that falls back on? It falls back on the homeowners. And that's the one thing that you have to be very mindful, especially if you're buying it as investments or rentals, because that can kill a year or 2 or 3 worth of income on a rental unit. And if you're a homeowner and you're budgeted, even though you get a condo or a townhome and you think that's going to be a little bit more affordable than a single family house, you always have to be mindful of an assessment because they can be in the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they may spread that out, but you may get footed with a $15,000 bill all of a sudden. And that's where, people get into trouble. And it's, as far as not having that cash to come up with. And then guess what? HOA can, penalize and assess, and on top of that and fine. And it just turns into a whole mess. So you just have to be mindful of those types of things. Let me see. All right. Yeah. Alex says, thanks for answering questions. I've gone into debt for Chick-fil-A and pumpkin spice lattes.
I saw that. I was trying not to laugh a long time ago.
I think we've gone into debt over Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Definitely Chick-fil-A, but not the pumpkin spice. That would be Sam. I just like straight espresso.
Well, pumpkin spice, I mean, that's seasonal debt at least, right? I mean, you can only go into debt for
Yeah.
2 to 3 months of the year. I mean,
Yeah, we can tell who else is addicted to Starbucks. He's over here making good excuses. It's seasonal debt. Yeah, not a problem.
I'm not really a pumpkin spice latte kind of
No, you're not.
fan.
Well, to that point, though, like, I mean, going back to that, I think it's interesting that people say things like that because kind of like what you were saying earlier, Brian, like, and actually one of my good friends is a realtor as well. And she was just saying the other day, it kind of hit me, you know, in today's market, it's not like you buy your dream home the first time that you buy a house either. It's like you buy your way to your dream home too. So a lot of people who are coming, especially like out of renting situations, they think that they need to like be able to qualify for $600,000+ for their first home. But a lot of people who get into their $1 million homes and beyond, they didn't start with that house. A lot of the time you have to buy your way into that. So it's not like you're going to be able to scrimp and save from your Chick-fil-A and your pumpkin spice lattes to get into that dream home. Unless you're investing in something that's building you wealth along the way, you're never going to be able to get into that dream home that you've always wanted. So I think it's an important perspective change, and you really need to be in a wealth building mindset if you really anticipate getting into a bigger home at some point.
And Krissy with the mic drop.
The mic drop that finally worked.
It's so true.
We should have got her mic working a long time ago.
I know. I don't even need to be here.
Okay, Family Frisco says yes, they have a realtor. All right. Well, yeah, you know,
If you want another opinion, just give me a call.
We waste a lot of money without even know. I tell you what, if you really sit down just like Brian's, and that's the surprising thing. That's what nobody really wants to know. If you sit down and come through your budget, I mean, I can almost promise you everybody has $200 to $500.
Make it fun. Literally on a Sunday night, grab an hour. If you're single, cool. If you have a spouse or a partner, cool. Sit down, pour a glass of wine, open up your bank statements, and literally just go through. The first time's going to take you about an hour and a half. It's going to shock you, and look at the junk pile. Not like the survival, not your, your bills and your, utilities and all that stuff here and there. Your slush fund stuff that you should. Drinks at the bar, too much shopping, gambling online, blah, blah, blah. I guarantee there's $200 or $300 of trash in there that if you omit it, it won't even affect anything in your actual life. But when you think about, that's the difference of you getting a $400,000 house versus a $460,000 house, right? When you start seeing it that way, I promise you the same way that I see it is that your brain will never unsee it. And then it becomes a protector and a way of life, and you act like that in all financial areas. And then what happens is it compounds over a long period of time, but those small shifts. But don't think about it like judgment. It's not perfection. It's progress. Have fun with it. Get a glass of wine, get a drink, spend an hour, do it, highlight it all, and then set a dashboard and say, hey, I'm going to stop or cut this next month. I want to save $200, and then go back and audit yourself again. And then eventually when you get there, you'll figure it out when you start looking for houses and things like that. And you realize, that's a whole lot bigger house, or it's a whole lot nicer car, whatever it is, you move the money elsewhere that's more advantageous to you.
I think you might need a few glasses of wine to make that really fun, though, once you start seeing how much you're spending.
Yes. Absorb the shock.
That's right.
I was like, did Brian just say have fun on a Sunday night with wine and checking on your finances?
That's the only way to do it, because if not, they're going to be in sorrow. So at least get a little buzz shaking and be like, oh, I remember I spent that here and there. And then the next day, wake up and start chipping away at that monster and get it back small again. Because when you think of it as the mortgage payment in the house that you could actually buy, you start thinking like, oh, this equals this. If I save this $500, that's an extra $125,000 in the house. And I would, beg to say, if obviously your wife sees that and she realizes how much of a nicer house she can get, she's going to make sure that you protect that spending as well. So either way, it's a win-win. Just try to live a little when you're doing it in the beginning, because there's a little sticker shock for the first month or two.
Yeah.
You need an expert like this who thinks it's super fun to look through finances.
It is.
That'll take you to the next level.
I look through it because I think, oh, there's a bigger house. Oh, there's a bigger house. Oh, there's a bigger house. Let me cut my Starbucks habit in half.
Yep.
I would have to get rid of Sam to completely get rid of the habit. That's not going anywhere. I've tried.
We should start having wine on the live stream. That way we can see how.
There you go.
Next time I'll screen share. I'll let everybody have my stuff. They can go check it out and pull it online. It's all for free. But you got to start somewhere. It's always a good practice, but especially in an economic tight down. But if you're just trying to do it specifically to say, hey man, I want to be able to afford that house, like that's the first place to start is what can you control that junk spending and just go put eyeballs on your statements for a month and then see where it's at.
Well, and just getting past that fear too, I think that's really a sticking point for a lot of people is they're afraid to look at it. And I think a lot more people qualify for a home loan than go in and think that they do. I mean, I think I know personally a lot of my friends, they stopped, before they even started with getting a home loan and found out later that they could have qualified 5 years earlier if they would have just asked the question. So I think looking at the finances and pulling out the books and making that first step, it's just getting past that fear for a lot of people, because I think the word mortgage really freaks people out, especially people who are first-time home buyers or who haven't done it for a really long time. It's just kind of putting the fear away and just seeing what's possible.
You can get a home loan with a 600 FICO score. You get a home loan with 3% down. Like, just have the conversation, take steps in the right direction. Being in the dark is terrible. It's not knowing what you're capable of and not having a plan is the worst thing. So step out there and figure it out. If it's not your time, get with myself, with the team, or anybody else in your city or state, but put together a plan and try to get to where you want to be 6-12 months. But just miscellaneous spending and renting forever, it's just a dead end road.
So speaking of that, let's talk with the first-time home buyer right now. What should they strive towards for down payments, savings? I mean, do they need 20%? Or are you finding, or what would you recommend to them as far as can they get out with 3%, 5%, 10%? What would be your recommendation right now?
Yeah, first-time home buyers should be encouraged right now by the rate hike, because it's softened things a little bit. It's given them an opportunity to go out and shop, right? So that's the first part is, hey, your time is now. Take a look. There's no downside. Second piece is, to your point, don't think about the 3% down, 5% down, whatever. You can get into a house low as 3% down. I would make it about what are your financial goals, right? Where do you want to keep the budget? What do you want to spend out of pocket? Out of the two, which one's more important to you? That would be the mortgage math. Financial math is what else do you have in your life that's weighing you down, good or bad, right? Do you have other bad debt? Do you have liquid funds? Do you have a survival number? All these things matter. So you don't need 20%. Most people don't have it. Even the ones that don't do it. There's usually a higher and better use of the money. 10% down on a $500,000 home versus 20% down. The difference in the payment is going to be like $200. $250, but you're parting ways an extra $50K. Like, that's not a smart move. There's better places to put that $50K to save or grow. There's down payment assistance available right now, which before people couldn't get that. So if you're a first-time home buyer and you want to qualify, there's down payment assistance available. But I would set financial goals first, Levi, and I would reverse engineer off of that and say, I need to do this in order to get there, and then look at the total profile. Again, somebody with $1,000 a month truck is worried about $200 on the mortgage. You have to see the full scope of things. So make sure you got somebody in your corner that can make you look at the entire chessboard on how to make the moves. But, people should be encouraged, have a look, and then structure the mortgage specific to your financial goals, not just what the guidelines allow for.
There you go. Well said. Brian is dropping the knowledge tonight. There you go.
Thanks, Ethan. That's what I'm here for, man.
Mortgages
are great, and I'm just trying to help people get through it. They're too old and crabby in applications and stuff. And a lot of lenders don't really know anything. They just take applications, they message. And so, buying a house is the biggest investment of someone's life. There should be more to it than what the day-to-day has to offer, which is why obviously, myself and the team is here to kind of help everybody understand how to do it the right way.
And Krissy just dropped Brian's contact information in the chat there. So if you want to discuss your options on making a move soon, I think it's a great way to always start with the mortgage broker. I mean, it's one of the first things. When people call us, we have a discussion with them, understand, their needs, why they're making the move, what are they looking for, all the parameters around that. But the very next thing we do is we say, you got to talk to our man, Brian, because we know that he's going to take a look at it as well. And what I really, really love about Brian is he always does what's best for the client. And, and he'll tell us, he'll say, hey, if he has that conversation with the client first, but if he comes back to us and say, hey, it's not a good time, we're going to have to work on some things. They're not in the best position right now. I mean, he's always got the client's best interest in mind. And we love that. And he's got our best interest in mind too, because just in case somebody comes in and doesn't have all their ducks in a row, he can spot that too. And so it's a great relationship, but I know that he will take care of you, and he is absolutely relationship driven. And I don't think there's a question I've ever asked Brian that he does not know the answer to. I mean,
there's a lot. I'm just getting lucky tonight.
He's like the encyclopedia of mortgages. So.
For all the people out there watching through that are renters, here's a little fun puzzle for you. So if you want to buy, but you're renting right now and you're stuck in a lease, I would encourage you this week to go pull your lease and figure out what the reletting fee is. Let's say you got 6 months left on your lease and it's $6,000 to break the lease. If the guys could get your reletting fee paid for in full, would you consider getting pre-approved and buying a house? The reason I say that is most people don't want to pay the reletting fee. So get pre-approved, get it all squared away. If it's $6,000 to break it, they'll go get you a deal. Hey, $400,000 house, get $6,000 in seller concession. Make sure the seller gives you $6,000 back as a concession. You can use that to buy yourself out of a lease. So these are just strategies and things. We could sit on this thing all night to help people understand and see through the lens of home ownership and why now is a good time to consider it. But little things like that are advantageous to clients to where, if something's stopping you specific to the reletting fee, go pull it, see what it is, call the guys and say, hey, I want to get pre-approved. The only way I'll do it is if you can give me out of this lease for free. They'll find a deal. They'll make it work. I promise. In this market, the opportunities are better than they have been in a long time.
Well said. Oh, we'll make it.
Brian is so good at finding ways to say yes too. And I think that's what scares a lot of people when they go to mortgage brokers. Like, I think, everyone who's done a home mortgage has probably met a really bad mortgage broker. And I mean, this guy finds a way to say yes. You find a lot of people who just say no or not now, but he finds a way to find a yes for you. Even if it's not now, he'll find a path for you to get to that yes. And so I think that's one thing that I absolutely love about him is that he's constantly looking for a path to home ownership for you.
Thanks. And I want clients to be clients for life. So if I don't take care of them right now and don't put them in the best position after the fact, they're not going to come back to me and they're not going to refer. So I tell everybody I'm a good cop, right? I'm always on your side. I want to make the deal work and I want to make everybody happy. Sometimes the answer is no, but it's no ... with a plan. If it's yes now and we can do it, let's make sure we do it the right way. So, there's a lot of questions, a lot of moving parts on home loans. And I just want to be, people to be able to bounce ideas off of me to make sure they're doing it right. And when we do it right, it makes happy clients and they stay with us for life and they refer out. Because ultimately the goal is always to get one client from every client. And if we don't do right up front, we're not getting anybody.
And what'd you think about them Cowboys on Sunday?
I would have lost in Vegas because I would have bet against them. I don't even know who Cooper Rush is. I feel like I'm better than him, but I'm a fan now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you what, man. Cooper was hitting some passes, man.
He was. I wonder what Dak's thinking. Is Dak nervous? Is Dak nervous about should I come back or not?
He is. He's got to be. He's like, I haven't completed a pass like that in 8 games.
He was looking really sharp. I mean, his throws were powerful, accurate. I mean, there's heat. But did y'all see that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game with Brady? That was the game.
Yeah, we all love Brady. You cannot not like him. He's just he's special to the game, man. So you just watch him in awe. He's still doing it.
Those are 2 great games for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was good to see him. I mean, defense held them on their last drive to get the ball back, drive down there, get a field goal. I mean, I'll take it, but still. I mean, for his first game in, especially like you said, like we were all going, wait, who is the backup quarterback? Well, where'd that guy come from? Who is that? It's funny. And came in there, man. And the thing is he was hitting some passes, and they get Pollard in there too, man, making some rushes. He should be making Zeke look nervous too. Yeah.
Well, and our defense is strong. It shows me like our D is really good. So if and when Dak comes back, it's just like stay healthy. You don't have to win the game. Just don't blow it. But in the meantime, I'm going to give me a Rush jersey, I think.
Let's go.
All right, cool. Well, that wraps up the questions this evening. Brian, as always, thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment to our clients. Thank you for taking care of us as well as and our team. Everybody loves you guys, so we really appreciate it. And again, you got Brian's information in the chat. Also, check out his channel as well, Dallas Mortgage Man. It is Dallas Mortgage Man, correct?
It is.
Dallas Mortgage Man on YouTube. He's dropping straight bombs on that channel as well. So if you're interested in learning more about everything about mortgages, there's your channel too. So Dallas Mortgage Man, check the chat as well. And again, thank you for joining us tonight. And whether you're thinking of moving in 9 days or 90 days, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. Happy to help you make that smooth move to Dallas. Until next time, hope to show you around town, and make sure you check out the next video wherever you see it on the channel. What it may pop up, who knows? Just go watch some more videos. All right, guys, have a good night.
Go Cowboys. See ya.
See ya.
Bye.